how do they get past that place where maybe they do have that wall up?
Well, I want to say we all have that wall up.
Yeah.
I just want to be honest.
Fair.
It's way
truth teller,
easier.
truth teller.
It's way easier to stay sheltered. It's way easier to feed into the narratives that nobody likes me, that the world is not safe, that I don't have anything to offer, to play small.
I'd love to know where this deep wisdom comes from.
This past life kind of mystery that maybe my previous lives, they've been working for this moment that I get to have a platform where people are actually able to hear what we have to say at this point. But then I did take that vow 10 years ago to not lie or to gossip. And then I spent maybe like 6 months to a year really quiet because I was like, what do people talk about if they're not talking shit?
I was just gonna say.
If they're not talking crap about each other, if we're not putting someone down, like what do we talk about? So I was like, oh my God, this is strange.
Do an impression of your younger self when they were first introduced to spirituality.
Oh, you're good at this. It's very much like this.
Today's show is brought to you by Brave Healer Productions. Experience what's possible. Coming up on today's show, spiritual teacher, global humanitarian, best-selling author, artist, and visionary, Sah D'Simone is here in the house. And we're talking all about relating and connecting from the heart. And of course, that's not all. We'll be hitting the streets for some fun conversations on Sharing with Shari. And then we're getting our sexy on with a little taste of La Dolce Vita with author Elizabeth Borelli. And I'm taking you on a road trip on the Joy Report. So buckle up and get ready for a fabulous ride. It's time for Good Morning Joy. The forecast calls for continued positivity throughout the week. There will be plenty of opportunities for acts of kindness, from random compliments to helping a friend in need. As the afternoon rolls in, expect an unexpected shower of smiles to brighten your day. The rest of this week is brimming with rays of positivity, joy, and heartfelt moments. So soak it all in. Remember, no matter the weather outside, it's always sunny here in our hearts here at Joy News. Keep shining. Over to you, Shari. So joining me right now, I have a spiritual revolutionary, a mystic, a visionary, an author. And I am so excited. I've been waiting forever to get him on this show. He has just recently published his book, Spiritually We. And he is sitting here right now on the couch just waiting for me to turn to him. So let's turn to Sah D'Simone. Welcome to the show, Sah.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm honored, I'm grateful to have you here. Your work, I'm not gonna fangirl here because that's just weird.
It's okay.
But I feel like you are the male version of myself, except much sassier and cooler. But I have been so connected to your work for so long. And I just wanna thank you for it first. Yeah. I'd love to know where this deep wisdom comes from? And I know that's a big question.
It's a big question because I like to say oftentimes that it doesn't make sense that I have it because I'm young and sometimes I'm in panels and places that with people who are twice my age who have sat in meditation for much longer than I have, So there's two sides to it. I think one, we can look at sort of this past life kind of mystery that maybe my previous lives, they've been working for this moment that I get to have a platform where people are actually able to hear what we have to say at this point. And then I also want to, share that like through hardship, through wounding, through trauma, through difficulty, through, religious trauma, through being an immigrant, through death, through grief. I think these have been my greatest teachers, addiction, depression, anxiety. Yeah, so I think a combination of the past life juice and this current life pain, I've been able to milk it and not always milk it, but oftentimes and pull something out of it. Yeah, that it's relatable to people,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, what I love and when people like really look into your work is that you're so real. You don't pretend to have it all together. which is so important. You know, I experienced trauma at a very young age, and it was very important to always share the truth, and I call it a truth teller. And so it's such a beautiful gift that you give to share truths. Has that always been a part of who you are?
Kind of, but I have to be honest, there was a moment 10 years ago when I actually decided to become a Buddhist that I had to. Part of the vows, there's multiple vows, and one of them is about not gossiping, the other one is about not lying. And I think everyone, maybe I'm generalizing, but most people in the queer community, we've had to survive in a variety of different ways, and because of the societal structures at play, you've had to learn how to lie. You had to play straight, you had to play these different roles, you had to keep your choice to who you love closed away from other people so you could survive. So I have had, I think before this 10-year mark now, lying was kind of just like part of what it was in a vernacular, you know? But they weren't like big lies. They were like small little nuggets of like a ways for me to stay safe, you know? And to keep my heart from being hurt, you know? But then I did take that vow 10 years ago to not lie or to gossip. And then I spent maybe like 6 months to a year really quiet because I was like, what do people talk about if they're not talking shit?
I was gonna say.
If they're not talking crap about each other, if we're not putting someone down, like what do we talk about? So I was like, oh my God, this is strange. So through that process, I really learned there's so much more to talk about. So when you say truth teller, I can actually say that for the last decade, you can count on me having lived with integrity and having kept my word and having tried to be impeccable with my word. And I think that's a barometer that really defines how well I am, you know?
Well, and I think that's where I would say, because I've heard you describe you as a joy activist. And really, for me, what joy is that alignment with your truth. And it's being fully expressed in yourself. And that's what I see in you, and why I've been so attracted to your work is because of that truth. And whether it is to other people, but at least it's always to yourself, which brings us to Spiritually We, your newest book, where you talk about, it's so well written, by the way, and I heard your voice in my head the whole time reading it. You talk about this our spiritual culture and just this me.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how you believe that has created this loneliness epidemic?
Thank you for bringing that into the mix. So the book, there's two arcs, right? There is the sort of the higher magic goal of like spiritual liberation and enlightenment and samadhi and nirvana. Any of these big topics, any of these words are sort of interchangeable. So half of the practice of the book and the way the book was written is to get people to understand that liberation, if you're seeking to become deeply relaxed, or we can say the word healed, you know, that's like easier for people to understand. The word liberation can feel so far out. You do need each other, you know, like we can't become peaceful or forgiving or loving independently of everyone else and everything else. To give you an example, how many days or how many times we have a moment of peace in the cushion at home or in a yoga class, you know, and then we walk out of class and we see a homeless person and we cross over them like it's not a human. So like, how free are you really? How peaceful are you really? Like to say that you have developed compassion on the yoga mat in a class, in the safety of a room or in your apartment, and if it doesn't translate to the people around you, to nature around you, to the experience around you, then you're not free. It's intellectual. It's very self-serving. It's very myopic. And you can study the vernacular of social media now. It's so much about protect your peace and boundaries and toxic and cancel and no contact. And I think all of these words have room on the path of wellness. But when you are reaching spiritual goals, when you're wanting to go for spiritual depth, some of these titles don't hold as much power, because what you're really trying to do is to realize our interdependence, how we're deeply interconnected, how I don't really exist independently of you, how I only exist interdependently, you know, how it's a co-creation, it's a plural. And then there's a small example that I like to give too. When you're looking for like more spiritual scripture evidence of this interdependence and how liberation is a relationship, if you look at how the Buddha became enlightened, right? You think, oh, he just sat under a tree and became enlightened. Oh, yeah, that's how most of us have known. But if you study it, if you look at the symbolism, if you study what took place, is Mara, the personification of all that's evil, that we may say, or you could call Mara like the devil in like the Judeo-Christian languaging. Mara appears to the Buddha within that night of his enlightenment. It says, and he had already realized that something had changed. And Mara says, how do you know that you're enlightened? And the Buddha says, Mother Nature is my witness, by placing a hand on the earth, and the earth shook in affirmation. So there's the relationship to Mara, there's a relationship to Mother Earth, and there's a relationship of Mother Earth to Mara. Like this relationality is something that often in the psychosomatic spiritual wellness space is devoid, because it's so much about me, mine, and I. How can I be happy? How can I be well at the cost of other people, at the cost of closing my heart, so I am safe. So we have that part of the book. Now the other side of the book, which I think we're
talking about spiritually
we. Yeah,
yes.
Thank you. The other part of the book, which I think is how we opened the book, where we talk to addiction experts, scientists, all kinds of people, to be able to draw, to really create a point, drive out the point that we need each other as a nutritional need, and that when we don't have friends, we are nutritionally deficient of a very vital nutrient that is as vital for our well-being as food and water and rest and sunlight. The problem is with the social media of it all, which, it's interesting for me to say this because we have been able to reach so many people across the world because of technology. But I think the shadow of this deeper interconnection that social media helps us have, like we have access to what's happening on the side of the world, but we're not really looking at what's going on right here.
That's right.
Right over here, our neighbors are needing help. And we're like, oh no, let me think about what's happening across the world. So that has created, as atrophied, our capacity to engage with our neighbors, to engage with the people around us, And when you look at like the evidence, the scientific evidence, it's, friendship is a nutrient that we can't live without. And people are just so, we've lost the muscle, because reality feels better on social media. But when you really realize how much you're missing, like psychologically, physiologically, spiritually, from not having friends. And the last thing I want to say in regards to the training that I started doing, the clinical spiritual education at Cedars-Sinai, the hospital here in Los Angeles. And this point I didn't put in the book. I wrote a lot about like how lonely we are, how this loneliness epidemic is impacting American culture, younger people, but also adults. But then one thing that I didn't add, which was really eye-opening and really heartbreaking, is that from offering spiritual and emotional support to patients at the hospital who are sick and dying, you realize from research, right? So from Googling, that 40% of the elderly population has no social support. And I'm like, why does this doesn't feel right when I'm actually in the rooms with the patients? Because it's not the truth. We're looking at 60 to 80% of the elderly population has no social support. And what does social support mean? No family, no friends. They're holding their hand as they're going through chemotherapy, complex surgery, or dying. Oftentimes it's me or another chaplain. This is something that we have to be aware of. We are not wired to die alone. We're not wired to go through the end or through the inevitable sickness that all of us will experience alone. And it happens so often. And at Cedars, you really get to see this economic demographic from really poor, because Cedars offers support to so many homeless communities, to so many people in the homeless community, and then to the wealthiest of the wealthy. It's where the celebrities go to die. It's where celebrities go to give birth. And you see it, that loneliness that we're speaking about here, the void of a human body with warmth, everywhere,
Whew.
Yeah. You asked about the book. I had to tell you about it. Yeah.
I just meant there was a lot in there to unpack.
Yeah.
And
I'm so passionate about this topic.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell at all. But what you're saying and what I'm hearing is this thing about closing ourselves off and this safety aspect. And why do you think that it is? Because I see so much like we hold on to this space that we go, I don't need anybody. I could do everything on my own. I am independent. I don't need somebody. I can do it. And the truth is that you're saying that we do. And it was so obvious during the pandemic about, everything that rose and depression that we need that connection. And part of my own work and joy has been finding out what those 5 pillars of connection are. And of course it is with each other. And so for someone that's watching right now that may be feeling this loneliness, that you're speaking of, the deep loneliness, how do they get past that place where maybe they do have that wall up?
Well, I want to say we all have that wall up.
Yeah.
I just want to be honest.
It's
way
easier.
It's way easier to stay sheltered. It's way easier to feed into the narratives that nobody likes me, that the world is not safe, that I don't have anything to offer, to play small than to be bold, be fierce, and also be a joy activist. Because to be a joy activist requires hope. Requires enthusiasm, requires us to see the silver lining, requires us to learn lessons after mother dies. Like things that are so tragic and horrific, it requires you to try to see what can I learn from this? Even though this is tragic, what can I learn from it? So I want to hold that there, right? And I think one big thing that I want to address is the somatics of it all. So the body piece that comes into the healing equation.
We're going to talk about that a little later.
Yeah. I think a lot of times when we get struck by a feeling of loneliness and we are on a couch or we are in the bus or in a train or at the office, instead of us doing something about that feeling, we go to social media. We look at a post from Sah and we're like, oh, cool. Yes, that makes so much sense. Double tap, It's literally doing nothing for you. It's like Dr. Rachel Wooserman said in the book, it's like eating Wonder Bread. We think we're creating connection through social media, but it's a neurochemical high that lasts so short-lived. And when we look at the feeling coming into the body and arriving and knocking and saying, hey, can you do something about this? We are so quick to distract, and we are not understanding that the need for connection strikes in the body like the same physiological cue for hunger.
Yes.
When we're hungry, I go to the fridge or we order something on the app, and then there it is. It's the solution is at the door, or is at the fridge, or it's at the coffee shop next door. But with connection and friendship, and with the tug of loneliness, we're not treating it the same way because we have been so socialized to believe that we have to do it alone. Look at the cover of magazines, self-made billionaire. There's nothing in the world that is self-made. Not a single thing comes to be independent of everything else. It's just a natural law. It's not a spiritual law. It's a scientific truth, that weaves together. So when we really believe that we can do everything alone and that we must do everything alone, we are faltering to, be miserable. I don't have another way to say it, but it's just a really sad life. Think about when you get good news and you are by yourself in front of your TV. It comes and goes, But when you get good news and I call you and you're so happy for me and we're happy together, it's explosive. It's like fireworks. Same thing with when we experience wounding and deep heartbreak. If I can call you or you can show up, that's what softens the burn. That's what softens that's what helps to not create emotional residue in the body, which later then explodes,
Yeah.
We need each other for the good and the bad, for the happy or the sad, because with the happy, it intensifies. With the bad, it softens, it passes, So my invitation to everyone is that next time the feeling for I need a friend that comes up, say to someone, I need a friend. I need connection. I need to share something special with you.
100%. And that is why I'm so passionate about your work. You say you're passionate about it. I'm passionate about your work because you're awakening this within us to be able to say, you know what? It is okay to say I feel lonely. It is okay to share how I'm feeling, to sit with that discomfort. Sitting in that discomfort allows us to then find that path back to the comfort. It's powerful. It's powerful. I'm lit up right now.
I'm like, keep going, honey. Keep going. This is it.
No, but that's why I said you're the male version of me, because I did do a TEDx talk where I talked about how we distract immediately as soon as that thing comes within us, and we're never going to find that place. And I guess my question for you is, do you feel that we can go to we? Do we feel like we go from we to me or me to we? How do we get to we? don't we need to be me first?
We have to do the me first,
Okay.
right? So I think the field of psychology is very much about development of the self, developing a strong sense of self, a strong identity, and the spirit, the body of work within spirituality. I believe it's about dismantling the self and becoming selfless.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go from zero to selfless because you're going to, you're gonna enter into like a very dark territory and not know your way through it. So we do need to take time alone. We do need to make peace with our stories. We do need to sit with our feelings. We do need to do our forgiveness practice. We do need to get to know ourselves, get to know our habituations, the ways we're socialized. And all of this is required for you to do on your own. But how does that relate to the we? You want to know if you have internalized or somatically realized something, you have to test your material. It's so easy to say, oh, I like myself in the mirror. I look so cute today. I'm not judging myself because I have a pimple or because I put on some weight or whatever it may be. Or I'm looking at my bank account and it's not as healthy as I want it to be, whatever it may be. And I'm not judging myself. Can you hold that same relaxed space for other people? Can other people share their burdens or show up in ways that you don't necessarily like? And can you still be open to receive them? It's really, to me, the me to we is about testing your material. Learning to test your material is how you go from wellness, me, mine, and I want to be happy, I want to be well, I want to manifest, to how do we create a better world for all of us?
Thank you for helping us to create a better world with your work. I'm not done with you yet. We are going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and we're going to have some fun.
Okay.
We'll be right back, so stay right there. After years of exploring nearly every corner of Europe, Matt and Karen Smith realized that they had overlooked the beauty waiting in their own backyard. So they set out on a life-changing journey across the U.S. to explore all 63 national parks. And in just 2 years, they made it happen. With their son grown and life presenting its challenges, they embraced the moment, choosing adventure over routine. We realized we didn't need to stay home. We had a whole country to explore, they said. From breathtaking landscapes to unforgettable stories, their journey gave them more than just bragging rights. It deepened their love for the country they call home. Here's to taking bold leaps, seizing the now, and falling in love with the world around us, one adventure at a time. Joining me now, all the way from Northern California, is certified life coach and plant-based nutrition expert and author of the brand new book, Taste Like La Dolce Vita, Savor Your Way to Wellness in the Sexy Italian Style. Elizabeth Borelli is joining me here, and she is going to completely flip your relationship with food and yourself right on its head. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Shari. It's such a treat to be here.
I'm so excited, and I love you just said treat. So let's dive into treat. First, I have to comment on the sexy part of the title. And you start your book right off with, there's no sex scenes in there, but you do talk about the sexiness of this lifestyle that we're going to talk about today. What does sexy mean to you?
I would say sensory is really the word that comes to mind most. And embracing all those sensory pleasures that a lot of times when we think about diet, we think restriction, we think what I can't have. And this is really, like you said, flipping it on its head, because for a diet to really truly work and, be sustainable, we want to be able to enjoy food. Ultimately, we are going to be drawn to the things that satisfy us, the things that bring us pleasure, the things that bring us joy. And diet is absolutely one of those things. So savoring, sensory, all of those pleasures is a version of sexy when it comes to food.
Now that I just kind of opened that up, talk to me a little bit about the inspiration behind this book.
Well, for years, I talked about plant-based diet and, it wasn't necessarily, I never really focused on Mediterranean diet. I wrote my first book, Being Delicious Living, in 2013, and it was about plant forward and the fact that there's a lot of meat in the American diet, a lot of saturated fat, and that's leading to a lot of health problems for a lot of people. But then when I went to Italy last year, and the food was more wholesome. They were more about, enjoying delicious food, slowing down, savoring. People are passionate about food in Italy, but in a healthy way. So that's really sort of the surprising part is you would think more passion for food would lead to more diet related disease. But after I came back and started doing the research, I found the opposite was true.
Well, what I love is that you combined, as you said, like the actual food and the cooking and the healthier aspects of it, but along with the mindset, along with our emotions. And you'd say that our emotions don't go quietly. Can you talk briefly about that?
There's an experiment called the white bear experiment where a group of people were told not to think of a white bear. And of course, all they could think about was the white bear. And it's the same thing with food. When we're told we can't have something we love, then we just want it even more. So you may be on this diet, you may lose the weight, but by the time you reach your goal, you're like, oh, I can't wait to get back to the hot fudge sundae or whatever it is. So it's more about finding a way to not eliminate anything, not deny yourself anything, to be able to find that balance between healthy, meeting those needs, meeting those cravings and desires in a healthier way, and creating balance by just, and a lot of times, doing more of your own cooking. And that's where I try to make it easy for people.
And you really did. And you brought us ways to be able to rediscover joy in cooking, in food, all through that. The book has recipes, the book has the stories that transported me to Italy. It felt like this well-rounded, well-written book that really heightened all of my own senses, my emotions, my mindset. Can you just give us one quick tip on how to rediscover joy in food so we can have increased health and vitality and sexiness?
Yeah. Well, for one thing, I love farmers markets. And so, this may be coming out at a time where there's not a lot of farmers markets available to visit, but finding that fresh produce, doing that experimentation, like finding the foods you love, trying new things, trying new cooking methods, and finding new ways to connect with foods you love and incorporate them into your diet on a more regular basis gives you a sense of empowerment. So it's exciting. It's a journey into the sensual side of cooking, I would say.
Love that. And I would encourage everybody to go grab your book. You don't have to go to Italy. You can tap into La Dolce Vita wherever you are. And I'm going to leave on this last quote from your book that says, life isn't an aria, it's a symphony. And the act of eating feeds body, emotions, brain, and soul. And if we try to separate or suppress some of those needs, the whole plan falls apart. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing your joy in food, and everybody go and grab Taste Like La Dolce Vita.
Thank you so much, Shari. It was such a treat to talk to you. Again, the word treat. And thank you for sharing your message of joy.
Thank you.
So I am back here with Sah, and I thought we would play a fun game of truth or dare.
Oh my.
So truth or dare?
Truth.
You've talked about the power of letting go of the stories we tell ourselves. What's a story you recently dropped, and how did that change you?
Oh no!
Ah, you said it.
Oh no! Oh wow! The story that I've recently let go is that I wouldn't find love.
Did you
after
find
my
it?
breakup. I am finding it right now.
Oh,
yeah,
so exciting.
I've just spent the last 4 days with someone and I'm just like, what is happening? My world's upside down. Oh my God. Yeah.
Truth or dare?
Truth. I don't want to do a dare. I think you're going to push
but they're
me too
so
far.
good. They're
okay,
so
dare,
good.
dare.
Okay. Do an impression of your younger self when they were first introduced to spirituality.
Oh, you're good at this. It's very much like this. Namaste. My name is Sah. Poor thing. I really had to like fit into the mold. You know, I really thought I had to have this zombie Zen style to fit into the spiritual space.
I love that. My name is Sah.
Namaste. My name is Sah.
I just saw you as like a cartoon character,
Literally,
like doing that. So, okay, truth or dare?
Truth.
You often teach that we must let go of intellectualizing our emotions and instead embody them. How has this approach to healing changed your life?
Ooh, very good. I think this is where dance came in. You know, I think I was very much in the holding back from exploring my emotions. Sometimes my emotions would explore me with shouting or acting ways that I didn't like and regretting it later. But through dance, I've been able to explore and express my emotions in a way that's safe and doesn't cause harm to anyone.
And you give that like to everybody that's watching. If you haven't, like, check out his dance. Like, you give us permission to fully get into body, to fully get into ourselves, to not care, to face fears, because you just showing up like that is a big deal. I'm just gonna choose one for you.
Please do.
I was like, let out a vocal release sound that you use during breath work, something primal and feeling.
Okay.
Ooh.
Like that.
Yes, just like that. Sah, it has been such a joy to have you on. And before we go, one last question for you. What is something that not everybody knows about that secretly brings you joy?
Lately, I'm gonna be really honest. Eating ice cream and watching TV.
I love that.
Literally, like, and I'm talking full dairy, full cane sugar,
Just
and
full.
like 6 episodes of Emily in Paris.
Oh,
Yeah.
just watched it last night. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
everybody. Go grab Spiritually We. You will, and go check out your page, all your work that you do.
Thank
You could see them everywhere, and I'm just so grateful for this time together.
Thank
Thank
you.
younger Sah. Namaste.
Oh. Namaste. Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now it's time to go talk to some peeps on the street on today's. I'm here with Lewis House from the School of Greatness, and I just have one quick question for you.
Yes.
What is something that secretly brings you joy?
Oh gosh, salsa dancing. Salsa dancing brings me joy. Being with my fiance brings me joy, but that's not a secret.
I was gonna say I see you salsa dancing all the
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
What's
yeah.
something
But
that no one knows?
I think something that no one knows. When I walk outside of my home here in LA, I say thank you, God, for a beautiful sanctuary that you've given me. I say I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful. And I get a lot of joy knowing that my younger self is living his dreams.
I love that.
So
Thank you for bringing me joy today.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you next time on Good Morning Joy, where every day starts with a smile.